Boom. What is up, everybody? Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It is the 11th day of August in the year 2020, and today is a great day for many reasons. First and foremost, it is my mom's birthday. It is Mama Posner's birthday, so big shout out to my mom. I know that she's not watching. Thanks, guys. It's also my buddy Drew's birthday. You guys know Drew. Andrew, redheaded Drew. It's Drew's birthday.
Happy birthday.
And it's also my buddy Vlad's birthday. So there literally is a trifecta of birthdays today, which is absolutely awesome. But more importantly, I am joined today by my two good friends that I've known for a long time, Cozzi and Bill Atkinson, co-founders of Golden Age Spirits. Welcome to the podcast, gentlemen. We did it.
What's up, Mr. Paz?
Thank you, Mr. Paz. We're happy to be here and awesome. Looking forward to a nice, long, engaging conversation about booze, life, and life in the pandemic.
Yes, please.
That is awesome. And I know where you guys are right now, but why don't you tell everybody watching at home, where are you guys?
We are in the bunker, as we like to call it, the barsement, as good friends like Posner know. This is the bar in my basement of my house.
So otherwise known as Golden Age HQ and the Rum Lab.
It is a Rum Lab. It is a barsement for those of us that are close to it, and we absolutely love it. So let's jump in here. I mean, I know you guys well, and I know your story, but I would love to share it with everyone joining us today. And welcome, everybody. And Joel, I apologize. Joel, I'm not trying to yell in your ear. This is just the volume of my voice, so I certainly apologize for that. But let's give everybody a little bit of your backgrounds before we get into the rum story, before we tell the origin story of Golden Age Spirits. Let's start with you, Tim. Tell everyone a little bit about your background and what you're awesome at when you're not building a rum brand.
Besides everything else, what am I awesome at? Well, I mean, got my start, Jersey boy, native, moved into Manhattan in the late 20s and did about 25 years in the advertising industry, still kind of dipping around in that. Managed a production studio, created ads, worked on every aspect of advertising and marketing, and drank a lot in Manhattan. Drank a lot. And I think that's what got me here.
Well, I apologize for that little latency there. We're having some StreamYard issues today, so we cut out a little bit there, but we will certainly catch up on that. Bill, what about yourself, my man?
Hey, so I originally grew up in Orange County, California, born and raised in SoCal, went to college in Central California, and then moved to New York in 2001. Barely escaped a dot bomb and went B2B back to banking and have spent the better part of the last couple of decades working in corporate strategy and corporate finance on Wall Street. So Tim and I met in roundabout ways, not during spreadsheets, but during bar hours. Which is a precursor to getting us to the point we're at now.
I absolutely love it. And big shout out to everyone joining us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We got Wifey Wife, Alona. Hi, babe. How you doing there? Rich Beer is in the house. Julie, how's everybody doing? Welcome to the live show. I appreciate it today. So let's dig in here, right? I mean, listen, I've drank enough with you guys to kill a small fishing village here. And I know you guys know your booze. And we've had it all. We've had tequila, rum, scotch, vodka. Why rum? What made you guys say, hey, let's do this, man? Why rum?
Well, that's an interesting thing. That we actually have a little line that we always say right now, which is why rum? Why now? Say that 3 times fast. And why rum? Why now is because essentially every sector that is in the liquor market has already popped. So you can kind of name an amazing luxury brand or a super popular brand in every sector of the liquor industry, except really rum. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, that's really true. I mean, the trend is premiumization, right? And we saw it with the craft beer industry, where craft beer was really big for a long time, and it became small craft production. As people got a little bit more health conscious, the beer craze started to die out. Those breweries transitioned into distilleries and gave rise to the craft distillery phase. And through that process, we saw, the French took a flavorless, tasteless spirit, otherwise known as vodka, and made it super premium.
Right.
And then the wise gentleman behind Patron decided, like, we don't have to have a distillery, but if we put it in a perfume bottle and we go super premium, and we know what happened with tequila and that. And so the last in that phase was really it looks like we just got a little cutout on the video here.
I hear you there. Yeah, we're gonna take this. Yeah, we hear you guys fine.
So
yeah, keep talking. We got you. Keep going. This is live.
So bourbon then went really, really popular. And bourbon continues to be like growing at a pretty good clip. But the category that hasn't gone super premium is rum. And it's really interesting that it hasn't gone super premium because a lot of people tell us they don't drink a lot of rum. Well, rum owns the largest tequila company and it owns the largest vodka company. So they drink a lot of it and they sell a lot of it, but they just don't drink it at a high level. So ultra premium rum is only 6% of the market. And so we think there's an opportunity and a secular opportunity to kind of capitalize on what will ultimately be the next super premium category, which is rum. And so there's some trends that support that, namely the premiumization trend. And premiumization in rum is only 6% of the market right now. So while it's big in terms of, like, I think the market for rum is about 1.3 billion a year. It's not big enough for the majors to really invest a lot in going super premium. So like we see in technology, it's likely that in the spirits category, you'll see smaller players innovate, create something new, and they ultimately get acquired, which is what we'd like to do. So we think there's a limited window of time to kind of paddle into that trend. And on top of that, unlike a lot of other categories, namely tequila and bourbon, which are restricted and defined by very specific rules, like bourbon, for example.
Right, it's only Kentucky.
From Bourbon County, Kentucky, and aged for 1 year. Rum doesn't suffer those afflictions. It's sugar cane's grown all over the world, agave, which is grown in one place. So there's a lot less restrictions in what is a rum and where it needs to come from. So there's a lot more opportunity for innovation and aging and flavoring and different characteristics. So, those kind of are the highlights on what strategically kind of drove us to focus on rum as a category, at least initially.
And it's interesting too. I was in my local liquor store this weekend, and I was even talking to the guy. And it's crazy to see what happened in the tequila category itself. I mean, Patron, blew it up, and now there's a million competitors out there, and there's even like the micro distilleries coming out with them. So you're certainly getting in early with that. But let's talk about like rum, right? Like there's dark rum, there's light rum, there's clear rum, there's Caribbean. Like, just give us a quick education and overview for folks that are not super familiar with rum.
Take it.
Yeah, so
you love it. You love it. It's his favorite thing to talk about.
So rum as a category is traditionally broken down into two things. It's either light or it's dark. So that's a reference to it's either aged or it's not aged. So Bacardi Silver, and God bless Bacardi for putting rum on the map in a major way, but they don't age the rum. So they produce it, they distill it, and to put to sleep a common misperception that because rum is made from sugar cane, that it's inherently filled with sugar. That's not true. So rum, like every distilled spirit, whether it's made from grain or sugar cane or agave or wheat or what have you, because it's distilled, there's no sugar in distilled spirit. So 180 proof ounce of vodka tequila gin is approximately the same calorie content.
90 calories.
And so you can make rum from different kinds of sugarcane process. So the juice from a sugarcane, the plant extract, or what we use and what we like is molasses, which is the byproduct of the sugarcane production process. So it's a kind of thick bar substance. You see it in barbecue sauce and other food goods. But
I totally get it.
Yeah, they distill that. And so then you've got the clear rums that come out of that distillate, and they don't age it. They may just rest it in a silver cask or a silver container. And then the aged stuff, which is what we like. And those of you that like bourbon, like Añejo tequila, Reposado tequila, or you like red wine versus white, then you also prefer the magic that the oak barrel provides to these spirits. So within the age category, you have a litany of types of rum. So like in the French islands, you have the agricoles, which they make from sugarcane juice, which have a very grassy, earthy type quality to them. And then in parts of the Western Caribbean islands, you have like these Jamaican style rums, which have a very pungent kind of almost like I don't
What's it? Applebeam?
Yeah, Appleton Estate.
Appleton,
one where it's like you know it right on the nose, right? You're drinking something else, and it's a part of the pot still production process. And then
underpit.
And then there's what we like to have, which is a less the esters are what give rise to those kind of more pungent flavors, and it's part of the distillation process. So without going into a chemistry lesson, I just say the big molecules that go through the still give you those funky flavors.
Yeah.
But we like bourbon, we kind of restrict those. So our flavor profile is a low congener or a low ester, or as we like to say, a low funk flavor profile.
This guy knows what he's talking about. Damn. I'm glad I asked that question. I mean, literally, you got your PhD, and we're going to get into that whole thing in a little bit. I want to understand, how you guys learn the art of bourbon, and we'll talk. Of rum and the business.
Not too long ago.
Yeah, my mind is on bourbon, but I had an opportunity. My bottle came last night, and I tried it neat, and I tried it over the rocks, and it was absolutely delicious. The bottle, everything was awesome. But we're going to get to that in a second. So let's talk business for a moment here, right? When you guys first told me about this, I smiled and I was like, holy shit, like my buddies are going to do this. I know how focused you are and determined. And it's been exciting to see this grow from a kernel into having the bottle in my hand last night. And I was just so fucking proud of you boys. I mean, that was absolutely incredible. And I turned to Alona and I go, look at this. I go, they did it. Look, I have this bottle. Here it is. It's up there. It's in the corner. And I'm going to crack this bad boy open. I got the wax off. We'll get to that story in a little bit. And I poured it. And it was just cool, man. You know what? Like, as corny as that sounds, it was awesome, man. It was incredible. So let's start. Like, that first conversation. Whose idea was it? Did Bill turn to Tim? Did Tim turn to Bill and say, yo, let's start a rum brand? Like, tell me that moment. Let's bring it back. Let's hit the rewind machine. Let's bring it back to the beginning.
That's an arguable point, but the way I tell the story, this is we talk about history of our brand and storytelling. So what we always say is, as we understand it. So as I understand it, we've spent many a late night and early morning down here in the Barsman. And very often people like yourself, Adam, and a lot of our other friends would be around here, and we would talk about business and starting businesses, different like kernels of businesses that you could start. And one thing that kept coming up was liquor, starting a liquor. Big surprise.
Shock.
So, that storyline kept coming up. And then there was a report that Bill had gotten his hands on through one of his friends.
Top secret dossier.
That basically was an overview of the rum category. And it was based on Cuba, right? Cuba was going to open the borders.
It kind of got rise. An old friend of my father's who was in the liquor business for a long time. When Obama opened up Cuba,
that's right.
He was like, let's get on a jet and go do a rum deal. Let's build a rum empire before everyone gets their hands on the Cuban rum. And so we kind of started noodling on that idea, and maybe we'll buy a bar, and maybe we'll build a rum brand. And then that research report kind of validated that the opportunity was a legitimate one, and that the category is ripe for premiumization. So put a little wind in our sails to kind of take the next step. And then, Cuba kind of dried up and was, not surprisingly difficult to deal with. And so then we started looking around for other sources and to try to figure out what we wanted to do.
Yeah. That turned to literally taking an empty room on the third floor of my house and painting a whiteboard on the wall. And we decided to start having weekly meetings. And that became really coming up with an investment deck and getting deeper into what it would take to make a blend of rum that we liked. And those weekly meetings became biweekly meetings. And to fast forward to lots of sampling, lots of blending, a little bit of travel, and really coalescing this whole thing into a beautiful brown spirit inside a bottle.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, one of the things we always talk about, entrepreneurship, there's tons of amazing young folks out there that are crushing it and killing it. But there's something about starting a business, and I don't want to say later on in life, but, after the age of 40, when you've had so much wind at your sails, so much experience, and you guys bring your collective knowledge in different industries and different disciplines. And I think that's what helped you accelerate it. Plus, you have the discipline. You have the project management mindset and the understanding of how to build and foster those relationships, and understanding vendors, understanding package, bottle design, build with the financial elements to it would really help accelerate. Do you guys think you could have done this at 25 years old?
I don't think so. Do you? I mean, I think
I was busy at 25 on the other end of the production.
Yeah. You were the end user there,
Yeah,
and it's absolutely
user.
But that has a big part of the success of the brand right now. Spending time, traveling to Ibiza and partying down in Miami and loving nightlife and loving cocktail bars. And one of the things from when I really started when Bill and I have known each other over a decade. But back in the day when we first started hanging, I think it's about 14 years now, right?
I mean, after double digits, I just kind of stopped down.
It's dog years at this point. Yeah.
But I mean, I always loved a good lounge, and Bill loved a good a cocktail bar. A true cocktail spot. So it was I love the ambiance, and he was the one who knew the guy in that place who made the best old fashioned,
like a Dale DeGroff cocktail. Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, listen, I've had an opportunity to have a few cocktails. Bill, I think actually where we go, the Nomad, right? I think that was the last time I was in the city, and that was the last cocktail I had, right? Is that where we went?
I think that is the bar inside the Nomad is excellent.
That was badass, man. And it's an experience, and it's a feel, and it's an emotion that you get from it, right? Let's talk a little bit about that. I want to go back and talk about some trials and tribulations. What was the hardest part, right? What was it? Was it the relationship with you guys, figuring out how to work with each other, going from that dynamic of being friends to business partners, learning the business? I mean, what were some of the challenges?
I mean, I think pandemic is the easiest answer to that.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
I think initially it was about the production process, right? Like, how do we launch a proof of concept brand without buying a container full of spirits from somewhere in the Caribbean and putting on a ship and getting a bill of lading and doing all that without raising, $1 million. So
right.
We do something leaner and faster and learn quicker without all the capital outlay. And that required us to do some networking in the industry and find some partners that were willing to collaborate with us without a lot of investment. And so, I think it's the old adage, it's like use your phone to make a phone call instead of dropping a text, but get on the phone with people and build some relationships. And that's what we spent 18 months doing.
Yeah. I mean, and you had a lot of those and you had the insight and the foresight to know where you needed help, right? Where you couldn't do things yourself, where you couldn't afford it at the time, where you didn't have, the resources for it. And now the bottle's in stores, which is absolutely incredible. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But let's just talk about the category, right? Let's just talk about, rum. Let's just talk about the spirit business during the pandemic here. I mean, I have some data points to share, but I'd love to hear what you guys are seeing in the market.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, everybody, during the initial lockdown, everybody was talking, one of the biggest headlines was that liquor selling like wildfire. But the truth of the matter is the industry took a 50% hit because 70% of that industry is on premise. So it's bars, restaurants, and any place that you would actually have a drink. So, that was kind of a misnomer. It was a great headline that liquor selling like crazy, but it wasn't actually true. And then for us, we, to not overuse the word literally, we literally launched our brand just about a week before lockdown. So nothing like making it as hard as it could possibly be. So right there, 70% of our marketing plan just went in the waste bin.
Yeah, I mean, that was a bit of a slap in the face, is that we predicated our kind of initial business model around on-premise accounts. And on-premise, for those of you listening, is a place you can drink on-premise, like a bar, versus off-premise would be a liquor store. So because of our connections in the nightlife industry, and in the cocktail world, we have a lot of inroads to some great places to kind of build our brand around. But lo and behold, when the lockdown happened, we really had to think differently about target acquisition, customer acquisition, marketing. How do we build a brand when your top 5 bars in New York City are no longer recommending it because they haven't even got it yet because they're closed?
Yeah,
so it really was like a kind of we had to think about strategy in a whole different way. It's something that we had put off, frankly. And so I think, one of the lessons out of this, and it's not rocket science, but is to kind of think more creatively about your customers and to, don't become over reliant on a single category in the event that something happens. So a little bit of diversification in your target customer base is not a bad thing.
How did you get the product into customers' hands to try to build awareness, right? Let's talk about the physical distribution and the social media reach. How did you combine those? How did you get the word out?
So basically, we are using a lot of peer-to-peer marketing. But as far as the liquor industry and getting it out, remember, liquor is part of the ATF. So you can imagine how controlled this substance is, to the point that we can't even like send a bottle. Somebody says, can you send us a sample? You know, we have to buy that to send it to you because it's so controlled.
Regulated.
And, so in that same right, we needed to get a distributor to be able to sell it too. It's not like you could just, you know, you could make, mittens and face masks. You can sell them on Etsy. We don't have that opportunity.
Nope.
Yeah, and that was a bit of a lesson. I mean, it's one of those things you don't know until you start doing it. But like, we produced all this rum, and we want to ship it around for samples and reviews and tastemakers and what have you.
Of course, you want to get it in people's hands, in their mouth.
But we actually have to buy it ourselves to ship it back out. So
well, hopefully you get a nice employee discount, right?
Yeah, you would think, right? So I mean, it's been a proactive approach to finding the right people that can say the right things and put in front of the right people, whether that's forthcoming open bars and restaurants and what have you, or even just liquor stores, right? So different larger chains, smaller chains, regional players, et cetera.
So let's break down the awareness piece into two segments here. We have B2B and B2C. Let's start with the B2B, right? I mean, obviously, we know restaurants are, making a comeback, but they've been, decimated, especially here in the tri-state area. I mean, bars is a completely different ballgame. I don't even know when those are going to open back up. How do you keep it top of mind, and how do you balance that message to a bar or restaurant owner when the last thing they want to hear is somebody trying to sell them something and they're just trying to stay afloat?
A great person that we know he's actually in the wine industry, told us that, he warned us, and it was true, and that there is no real large scale way for us to do that without a huge insertion of money. So really it's just blocking and tackling. So This is hand selling, one-to-one, daily, weekly, monthly.
I hear you. I hear you on that one.
It's a function of building the right relationships where people will take it on, even if it's as a recommendation. So even though some of the big cocktail establishments in the city on the West Coast and et cetera are closed, we're still getting some reviews and some feedback from a lot of those people. So we've taken on a proactive campaign of shipping product as we can all over the country in order to kind of stockpile a set of reviews and kind of set distribution. And so we've kind of been sitting on that as part of our media strategy going into the second half of the year.
And let's talk about the consumer side for a little bit. I mean, I can only assume there's rum blogs, rum vlogs, rum, chat rooms, Facebook groups, and all that stuff too. You guys getting real granular, getting in there, getting in the conversation. How are you hitting the consumers?
Well, I mean, one of the not easiest ways, but one of the first ways that we're doing it is before Bill and I we even had a product, we were flying around the country going to these kind of, for lack of a better word, a liquor festival or these different industry events. And we got to know some people inside those, inside the industry. And then one of the best ones was this group called the Rum Buddies that we met down in Florida 2 years ago. And we're actually going to be doing a sip and share with them, with 22 of the Rum Buddies this weekend, where we sent them a small sample. We sent them some corresponding mixers and competitors, and we're going to talk about how we rise to the top, and in that, how we mix the best. And I think that's a perfect example of that kind of larger hand sell without taking an ad out in GQ.
I was just about to say, this is the groundwork, right? This is the groundwork. This is laying the foundation, like in any business, right? There's multiple touch points, strategically, right? There's clouds and dirt, right? You gotta be on the ground, shaking hands, kissing babies. I mean, not with liquor, but you guys get it. And how does that apply to social media? Have you guys been building a following and an audience?
We have. We're really doing it one follow at a time, So part of that, we've basically just been using Instagram and Facebook to do that. And through doing that, basically, I kind of have it set up in two channels where, Instagram is sort of our look and feel. And that, so you go to our Instagram page and you kind of get a feel for what the brand looks like. And it's a luxury product. So I want that channel to portray luxury. And then basically we just use Facebook for more conversational interaction. Kind of like a shot from a bar, a shot with a bartender, a couple of people drinking with us, hanging out on the beach, things like that,
Awesome.
And then just, really just reaching out and developing each one of those likes into a follow one person at a time.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit chicken and egg, right?
How you do it.
You can't go out and just buy all the influencers or buy the followers, because then you have an inauthentic audience. And so our strategy has been to let's do it organically and methodically and build, like Tim said, a polished veneer, put a polished front up. And now that we've got that, we're getting inbound requests from, like, we got one the other day from a group online that does about 127,000 followers, and they do videos and posts, and they wanted to feature us. So as we start to kind of build our organic presence, we're starting to field inbound. So I think in the next 6 months, we're going to have, some opportunities to scale our social media reach by working more with, these kind of outlets.
And listen, man, this is the early days, right? I mean, that's why you hit on a really key word there. It's authentic, right? There's so many ways in every channel, every online, every offline channel to buy an audience and buy followers. But that doesn't do anything. Those aren't going to be your loyal brand enthusiasts. Those are not going to be your brand ambassadors. They may not even be people who are in your demographic who are even interested in this, and they're not real. That's not how this is going to work.
So you're not going to get anything from that anyway.
No, it's pointless. It's all vanity metrics. I mean, but ultimately, listen, you need to be able to get the product into people's hands one way or another. That's because once they taste it, then they become, they become your ambassadors, right? That's when it's a peer-to-peer. Then that's when it's mouth to mouth. That's the way it's going to work. So talking about the pandemic here, and on my show, I like to talk about silver linings. It's been hard. I know firsthand from our conversations offline, the challenges you guys have been going through. But there are silver linings here. And Bill, you were alluding to it earlier when you talk about the pivot, when you talk about you have to change your mindset of how you approach your audience, how you think about the business as a whole. So what are some of those key positive learnings and takeaways from the past couple of months that you've applied to your business today?
Sure. I mean, I think one of the things that we did early on was we established a goodwill component to our brand, right? So it's clean7cs.org. And the thinking there was that we wanted to do something with the brand that was about something larger than ourselves, and something that both Tim and I are individually and naturally have an affinity for, which is the ocean. And so we kind of built this separate entity, clean7cs.org, that's funded in large part by the sales of our rum. But we had to start that before we sold any rum. So we reached out to some well-known global organizations, and they were, I think Tim's got a phrase for it. It's like, they care that we care. And so we reached out to them, and they were all on board about supporting us. And so we have like this organic component to our follow base, our brand base, our interested parties that is, because they have a shared belief and a shared set of values and what we're about, that they have an affinity for the product. So it's not just, we don't compete on taste and price and look and feel. We've now got an emotional connection to people. Mm-hmm. And that's really something we've just started to do. And we did a tasting a couple of weeks ago in Hoboken, and it's, 5 o'clock at night. People are coming in from the gym and they're buying stuff. They're not walking in to buy a $50 bottle of rum they didn't expect, right? We had a woman come by who was not in our target demographic, not our typical target audience.
With a stroller.
And came up and did the tasting, and it's 45 ABV, right? It's hot. It's not like a, not drinking a rosé that's been chilled. So she was like, it's a little rough for me, but we started talking about the Clean 7 Cs, and she's like, I'm in, done. I'm all about it. And so I'll go talk about it. So, one of the recommendations that I would put out there is if you're starting something up, find a passion project that you're actually organically associated to, that you're just intrinsically interested in, because the authenticity of that will shine through your brand, and the passion in that will come out. So people can then create an emotional connection to shared beliefs and values. And that's more important and probably more valuable and authentic, to answer your question in a long-winded way, than whatever the marketing is we will put on the product.
No, that's killers, right? So how does that work? Is it a percentage of profits off the top that you're donating? Is it a separate entity? Tell us a little bit more about, how that's funded and what exactly it goes to.
Well, it's kind of a mixed bag of those things. We choose, sometimes Bill and I will just choose through our relationships, because we're constantly talking to the stakeholders in these 5 different organizations. So often something will come up to where they have a need. So sometimes we just peel off money of our own and give to that, just to show that we're involved. But to answer again in a long-winded way, yes, we take a percentage off the top and funnel it through our organization and give it to these guys.
No, I absolutely love it. All right,
Correct.
so So we have our crystal ball in front of us here. I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic that we're coming out of this, especially here in the New York, tri-state area. We've done a great job, and as long as we keep our masks on, keep our distance, and do things the right way, we're going to come out of this. What does the back half of 2020 and 2021 look like for Golden Age Spirits?
Well, I think first and foremost is we're putting together a proactive media strategy. So like we've done the hard yards to kind of get the product launched, get some initial tastings, know that we didn't create something that's not going to fly. So it was, does the product work? We validated the proof of concept in the first 6 months by hook or by crook, right? So the second half of it is really about brand exposure and, probably fundraising along that. But we've got inbound partnerships. So we're working on a couple of partnerships that we can't really talk about right now. We're working on promotional events alongside our Clean 7 Seas partners. So it's Shark Week going on. So we're partnered with the North.
Are you fighting Mike Tyson? I saw that. I saw Mike Tyson's actually fighting a shark.
Yeah. Tim's going to do a couple of rounds. It's either Tyson or Great White. So he gets to pick.
I get whoever loses.
Oh, man.
But I think so the second half of the year is going to be about, some brand awareness, some more proactive, larger scale marketing campaigns. And then we're working on opening up a couple of more markets. So currently available in a few states, working on South Florida and the Keys. So that'll probably come online next, as well as a couple other locations.
And look, to that end, you got to remember, in a pandemic, I would just try and make it short for you, Adam, is, everything that we planned on doing, every part of our marketing strategy is taking 3+X more time. So every small battle that we win takes at least 3 times longer than than it would have in a normal situation. So it's about like developing those new marketing strategies, putting them into play, and not letting the stuff that you've already won and developed die on the vine.
Absolutely. Are you finding it easier because almost everybody is at home and accessible to get in touch, whether it be partners, distributors, customers? No, harder?
Yeah, it's strange. It's like in our circle anyway, people are busier now. Yeah. It's even though they're at home and they're not in the field, so to speak. Everybody's slammed trying to do more with less, right?
Yep.
Less resources, that's more outreach, more on the phone, more collaboration, more. Let's do some research. Let's figure out a new strategy. Let's try something else. So, like ourselves, we're slammed. It's as an entrepreneur, I think
absolutely.
It's about what can you live with breaking today. I've got all the eggs up in the air. I know I'm not going to catch them all today, so I can just live with the eggs.
Yeah, things are going to break. That's really part of the entrepreneur journey, right? Like knowing when to fall on your sword, when to fight back, and I don't want to use the word give up, but when it's, we tested it, it's not working, when to cut ties and move on. Has there been any key learnings about something that you, and I know how, your conviction, both you guys, you're like, we're sure this is going to work, 100% this is going to work. And then you go out there and you test it and it fails. It didn't work. Like, talk about that moment when it was like, all right, this isn't working. I know it's in our hearts, but we got to cut ties with it. Whether it be a strategy, a tactic.
I think I'll make it short.
You get knuckle and curveyball here, man. You're not going to get the
No, I appreciate it. I think the hardest thing for me that to answer that question was when there's with all these hard yards, when we get into a retail location that we're really excited to get into, and then for whatever reason it's just not selling in that location. And usually it's hindsight, so you could tell it's where it is in the store. Who's coming in there? Mm-hmm. So maybe you think a little more highly of the buying public that's coming in there, and they're just not looking at a premium spirit, things like that. So those are the hard ones when you win those blocking and tackling battles. You get it in there, and then it's just harder to get it to sell in that particular location. Whereas, and it bothers me because in other locations you can't keep it on the shelf. So it's constantly that battle of what's going wrong, what's going right.
Yeah, and you're learning though, right? You're getting data points from each store, each location, each zip code, right? And you're mapping it and you're understanding, hey, listen, we're crushing it over here. Let's go big on like influencer engagement, brand ambassadors. Let's build it out. Like, let's blow this out of the water. There's a critical mass of fans and customers here. How do we convert them from customer to ambassador, right?
Yeah, that's right. The way that we like to talk about it is narrow and deep. So that it's more important for us to have rebuys.
Hold on, pause there. Let's repeat that for a second there. We had a little glitch.
It's more, the way we like to talk about it is it's more important to be narrow and deep. So we'd rather have 50 accounts that rebuy all the time than 500 accounts that only buy once. So
gotta go deep.
So it's a little different approach, but it's more relationship. And to Tim's point, it's like just because you put it on the shelf doesn't mean it comes off the shelf.
Yep.
So you've only got half the battle won. So you did the B2B, the retailer likes it, they'll put it on the shelf. But now what are you going to do for the retail program to move it off the shelf?
Right.
So given the pandemic, it's like, we can't go in and do tastings. So we're starting to do some of that now, but by and large, we haven't done one in Manhattan. We're in several locations. They're not ready for that. So unlike, other products, you really have to taste it in order to really like it, unless you get a strong recommendation from somebody you trust. So that's really been a challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, is there any way to do sampling like otherwise? Like, could you do like pre-sealed bottles or anything like the minis, like the airplanes or anything? Like, is there any other way to get it into the customer's hands?
So, right now,
I don't know what the regulations are, production.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. Is one thing with liquor is it's tobacco, liquor, and firearms. It's all about the borders. So
all the
if you
fun
don't
stuff.
have a representative dealer in that state, you can't ship it out of that state. So that's the biggest hurdle for us. Is we're in 4 states right now, and the worst thing in the world is when you have somebody who tastes it on a visit or somewhere with a friend or something, and then they live in Utah. And they're like, I love this. Where can I get it?
Yeah.
And it's not like we can ship it.
We're having that issue with Quebec, right? So as you know, like I used to live in Montreal. We all have a bunch of mutual friends up in Montreal that run restaurants and what have you. And so that's a great market for us, but we've got to import it into another country. We've got to put French on the bottle. It's a 700, not a 750. That's a whole different production process. That's a whole different compliance process.
It's a whole different.
It's not like we can send up a couple bottles and see how it goes. It's all of those things, thanks to the regulatory structure, the 3-tiered structure is what we call it here. It makes things a little bit more onerous than they probably should be. But the positive is because of the pandemic, the distilleries across the country have really kind of raised up and said, there's no reason why because if I've got a distillery in Pennsylvania, I can't sell in New Jersey or Virginia. Like that's a separate kind of customer. We should be able to do that. So, we have different licenses for New Jersey and New York that we have to operate under, even though we go back and forth across state lines on a regular basis. So there's a lot of movement in the industry to reduce or kind of remove some of the arcane friction that's in the business system. So we're hoping that's going to happen in the next 6 months. I mean, to give you an example that those things never happen, you think the government, right? Well, the federal excise tax, which has historically been like 12 to 13%, is at 2% now. So they did give some relief to the industry. So there are some eyes on that because bourbon is such a popular export.
Oh yeah.
That there's some motivation, in Washington to make sure that our craft alcohol industry survives this. And so I think we've got some political tailwinds that should support that.
Well, you guys are betting big on rum, and my money's on you to keep winning this, man. I mean, I can't applaud you enough. It's been fantastic to watch from the sidelines. And again, having that bottle in my hand last night, it's like, listen, they did it. Like the idea into the bottle, into my hand, into pouring into a glass and into my mouth and tasting it. And it was awesome. And Russ is going to come by later and try some. I just got a message from him. That's pretty cool too. So, I like to end every show, learning a little bit more about my guests and about you guys, right? And like, I've known you for a long time, but we're introducing you to a bunch of new people here. And I always like to ask like what your superpowers are, right? And I'm not talking about flying or invisibility or any of that stuff. And what I think is going to be awesome about this answer is you guys are going to have 2 different answers. I'm foreshadowing here. And we're going to see that they complement each other. So I'm going to start with Tim. What's your superpower, man?
Oh, man. I mean, I think it's 30 years of being a late bloomer and becoming this person that has the ability to kind of talk to anybody and, in a non-snake oil, authentic way about it. So, one of the things with our product that Bill and I were talking about ending a meeting the other day was that we do have a new marketing kind of direction on it, which is I've come to the conclusion now that I've heard enough positivity about the product that I'm going to start being arrogant about it. So, when someone asks how it tastes, I tell them that it tastes great and you're going to love it.
It does. Awesome. Bill.
So I'd say myself, I think something that I'm naturally good at is I have good vision in terms of trend spotting. So I can see things that are a couple of rows out from where they are. And so, I'm good at trying to navigate a complex strategy and something that's tactical. So it's, don't boil the ocean, focus on something that's immediately achievable and make continuous progress on it. So it's kind of like this project, right? It was like, this is a monster to unravel.
Oh,
and compete with. Where do we produce and where do we start in the world? And
can't even imagine.
Let's reduce this down to something that's manageable and measurable, and just move it forward. And so I think that's, like we're in the middle of a change in strategy because of the pandemic. So I think, our respective strengths will help us navigate that. And I'm frankly looking forward to the second half of the year. Can't be any difficult than the first half.
It can't be any worse. But let's keep our mouth shut there. And last but not least, Bill, what's the greatest piece of advice you've ever received that you take action on every single day?
That's a tough question. I try to take a moment for I'm talking to a prospect or a customer, and really try to understand their needs and our product fit versus let me ram it down your throat and close the deal. Because it's more, the better that you can understand why this is good for them, the easier it is to talk about, and then they become an evangelist. So, we fall into that trap where it's, let's pitch our product and it's different because X, Y, or Z. It's not about this, like I could give you an example. So we were at a restaurant the other day. We're looking at the cocktail menu. They really love it. The first thing I noticed is that every row on the menu's got like 20 grams of sugar. Mm-hmm. So it's not like why we're better. I'm like, you guys have a bunch of beautiful people sitting out on a patio. You're feeding them a bunch of stuff that's laden with sugar. I would think your clientele would really like something that's a healthier option.
That's good insight. Yeah, and that's a good one. Tim, do you think the baseball season is going to be completed?
It almost doesn't matter because nobody's in the freaking stadium drinking. So it's just one more part of the off-premise sales marketing, the whole thing that we're just not part of. It kills me. Every time I see a home run go into left field at Citi Field and we see the the bourbon bars out there.
Oh, the Jim Beam. Yeah, I mean it's a tough one. But Tim, man, I mean you and I have been friends for a long time, and I deeply value my relationship with both of you guys. Tim, leave us off here. Let's end this with some words of wisdom. What's the greatest piece of advice that Tim Cozzi has ever received that you take action on every single day?
Wow. You were throwing hardballs.
I mean, I just told Bill that. You had to know it's coming. You had like an extra minute.
I know.
And give you a question to think about it.
I think, I think it's the best thing that I've ever heard was, you've got to make whatever you're trying to tell somebody the most understandable from their point of view. So to tag on to what Bill was saying about, understand somebody else's problem, my best advice was examples and comparisons. So, usually when we're talking to somebody or when I'm talking to somebody personally and there's a concept I want them to understand, I always say, imagine it was this. So if you're talking about rum and you say, imagine if it was bananas, or when you're talking to a child. Now, things like that. It's comparatives and examples always get your point across so much easier than just trying to explain it with 10,000 words.
Right. Keep it simple. Well, that's awesome. Well, gentlemen, I can't thank you enough. And for everyone who's wondering out there, where can they find Golden Age Spirits Marquee Reserve rum? How can they get their hands on it?
All right. Number one, it's Mark Reserve.
Mark Reserve. Sorry.
I think my dad calls it that too.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Quick history lesson. Mark Reserve, named after the letter of Mark. Those of you on the interweb can look that up on your own time, but it's pronounced as in the French Mark. But we're currently available in the Northeast in New Jersey, North New Jersey by the city, South Jersey along the shore, or Seaside, La Valette, that general area. We're available in Midtown Manhattan, Southern California, San Diego, Escondido, Orange County, Newport Beach, Huntington Beach, that area. We're in Napa Valley, not yet in San Francisco. That's coming soon. South Florida, Miami, Lauderdale, and Key West is also coming soon.
Awesome. And where can they find you guys online, social media?
We are at Golden Age Spirits, both on Facebook and Instagram, as well as Clean 7 Seas with the number 7. So clean7seas.org, at Clean 7 Seas, both Facebook and Instagram.
That's
and
awesome.
we would love it. Anyone listening, we'll even take $1. But if you go to clean7seas.org, there is a donation section. So please give right now because the coral restoration, the shark restoration, and the people removing all of the PPE that's going into the ocean now, this is a tough time, and all that money is starting to dry up.
Yeah, I mean, you guys can't necessarily buy booze from us that easily, but you can do something about the ocean. And so that's something easy and free to do. So we'd appreciate any support on that front. And Adam, thanks for doing this for us, buddy. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Gentlemen, this has been awesome. Thank you for spending time on the podcast. Everyone joining us today, thank you for spending a little bit of your afternoon with myself and my good friends, Tim and Bill. Some quick updates here. I just launched episode 93 of the podcast with my men, Bon and Bao. You can find it on thepodcast.com and all your favorite media players. Next week, we are dropping with Craig Fisher, recruitment extraordinaire from one of my favorite cities, Dallas, Texas. And we'll get to that one next week. And be sure to catch us next week for more podcast fun. Take care, gentlemen. Take care. Wash your hands. Stay 6 feet apart and be nice. Take care.
Save the ocean.